All right. All right, Jenny, here we go. So let me read your bio, and then we're off to the races here. All right, folks, welcome back to the live bookstore interviews. Very excited to have Dr. Jenny Hughes. Jenny, welcome.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So Jenny is a licensed clinical psychologist specializing in the treatment of trauma and PTSD. As a clinician, she practices EMDR, cognitive processing therapy, and prolonged exposure therapy. She recently published a workbook designed for clients to use on their own or with a therapist called the PTSD Recovery Workbook, which can be found on Amazon as well as the Trauma Therapist Bookstore, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome, and let's dive in here.
Actually, I think you must have a different bio. I don't know, because we're
Uh-oh.
going to talk about this one today, Triggers to Glimmers.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Triggers to Glimmers. So many books. And that's what I have on here. All right.
I
So
probably sent you the wrong thing.
no, it's probably my fault. But let's start out here. So Triggers to Glimmers, why did you write the book?
Well, when I started the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective and working with fellow trauma therapists to manage vicarious trauma, something that very quickly became obvious was how important it was for us to also acknowledge the gifts that we receive in our clinical work with our clients. And there's actually a fancy name for that, which is vicarious resilience. And it's the other side of the coin with vicarious trauma. And what I've been really experiencing and learning and cultivating over the past 2 years in running Brave is that when we first know what vicarious resilience is, then know how to pick up on it and have ways to really install and enhance it, it becomes this renewable energy source for us as therapists, as trauma therapists. And it's not another thing we have to add to our plate. It's not another checklist item or like thing I have to do to take care of myself. It rejuvenates us naturally. And so it's something that I want everyone to know about.
So vicarious resilience, talk more about that.
Well, so first, let's kind of look at vicarious trauma. So I think most people are familiar with that. That's the stress and trauma that we kind of naturally soak up through empathic engagement with our clients. We're sponges, we soak that stuff up. Vicarious resilience also is soaked up through empathic engagement, but it's soaking up the big and little gifts that our clients give us. So whether it is a small little baby step forward, or even a client just showing up and letting us know, like, I don't want to be here, but I showed up today. And then, of course, those moments where they make a big, huge step in therapy or have a really powerful insight, or just being present as we watch
Hmm.
the work that our clients do. Those are all really energizing experiences that are called vicarious resilience.
Wow. I don't even know if I've heard of it put that way. So are you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but just to clarify for me, so there's of course vicarious trauma, and a lot of people have heard about that, but vicarious resilience is kind of the other side of the coin, and a lot of people, a lot of therapists aren't even aware of it.
Correct. And something that's tricky or something that's hard for people to accept sometimes is that we cannot experience vicarious resilience unless we're also open to vicarious trauma, because they both occur when we engage empathically with our clients. They're just natural byproducts of our work. And so I work to normalize VT and then help therapists learn how to identify and enhance vicarious resilience.
All right, like, give us an example.
So even just yesterday, right? I just got trained in brain spotting, so I've been using it a ton and I'm loving it. And so I was working with someone, she dissociates a lot. She gets really, really scared of doing the work because it's a really complex trauma history that we are addressing. And so that is a big weight on me as the therapist. She's really trusting me with that. And she has very strong emotional reactions. So that's some vicarious trauma that I'm soaking up because I'm so connected with her in the work. By the end of it, she had moved through a really powerful experience and she was on the other side and she was calm, she was grounded and connected, and she looked me straight in the eyes and just so graciously thanked me for the work that we did together. And that was the vicarious resilience. That's a pretty obvious example, but it usually is much more subtle and we can pick up on it in our bodies as
Hmm.
therapists. So when we feel like warm fuzzies, any kind of connection with the client, that's often vicarious resilience.
It feels like this really intense balancing act. I mean, you said one can't really experience or get the benefits from the resilience without being open to vicarious trauma.
Yeah. Exactly. And so some practices that we have actually in the book all throughout. So it's designed as a workbook and a journal. So there are like blank journaling pages, but there's also lots of worksheets. And there's this soft transitions worksheet all throughout the book because it's a really helpful way for therapists to kind of check in with their work at the end of each day and to reflect about some things that went well, to allow themselves to then get cognitive and kind of plan for the day ahead of them, and then to experience some gratitude and to write down for whom they are grateful and bonus points if they want to send a thank you note. And that's a really
Hmm.
simple way to identify vicarious resilience and then to like install it and enhance it through that gratitude and that communication process.
So the book Triggers to Glimmers is for therapists. Is it
Yes.
for clients or just therapists?
It really is for therapists and helpers and healers. Plenty of our clients also are helpers and healers, but it really is directed at therapists because we are so burnt out. We have so much on our plates as therapists. And if there is a simple way that we can really rejuvenate and feel energized again without adding more stuff, then I want everyone to know about it.
Mm. I love this idea of, I mean, it sounds so simple, right? To become aware of what's happening, whether it be the vicarious trauma, but this resilience too, because I think it can be very easy to just in passing say, "Oh, that was a step forward," or "That was a great achievement." But are you inviting therapists to what, break it down more and to honor that more, be more aware of it? What?
That and to tell their colleagues about it, to tell their trusted, in HIPAA compliant ways, of course, but to share those stories with other therapists and trauma therapists because it solidifies it.
Mm,
That when you share that narrative, you're not only giving that gift to someone else of being like, wow, this is a really cool moment, but you're making it so real in your brain and body, and you're giving that moment its place in time in your timeline. And so sharing
mm.
it with others is really the secret sauce to making vicarious resilience so powerful.
Interesting. Why did this, or how did this become important to you and when?
Well, I've worked in the wellness space with helpers and healers for, I don't know, 5 or 10 years now. But it really was during COVID when I was continuing wellness work with other kinds of healthcare providers. And it was just so obvious that there were not as enough people taking care of the mental health providers. And so that's when I pivoted to really focus in on trauma therapists. And then when I started asking them to do things like self-care, which I hate the term because it's been used against us, it wasn't ringing, it wasn't resonating. And it was just like I was adding more stuff to people's plate or even just patronizing them. Like, I know what self-care is. Um,
Mhm.
and I had been familiar with the concept of vicarious resilience, but I decided to take a deep dive through my work in Brave and to really explore it together with our community. And just through kind of trial and error and experiencing it together, we've discovered what a gift it is for us.
Is vicarious trauma, is that, is a trauma therapist or even a therapist, are they necessarily always going to be exposed to that? I mean, is this something that is unavoidable?
Yes, in my opinion, yes, because vicarious trauma occurs through empathic engagement. And as therapists, as trauma therapists, when we're doing our job, we're empathically engaging. And so it just is a normal part of our job and our experiences, but it doesn't have to be bad. When we have ways to wring out that sponge and to
Mm,
counterbalance it, then it's not going to turn into things like compassion fatigue, secondary traumatic stress, and burnout. So if we normalize VT, we don't have to be afraid of it.
mhm.
And we can be supportive of that process and say, like, yeah, we have to continue engaging empathically. And that doesn't have to be a fast track to burnout.
it is one of the ways of dealing with VT, honoring the traumatic resilience
Yeah, certainly.
or
And
vicarious resilience, rather.
right.
Yeah.
And knowing that in order to experience vicarious resilience, we have to be open to the VT. There's this Buddhist teaching, soft front, strong back. We were just talking about this in consultation, where the concept is to be open, to be soft and literally in the front of your body so that you can be receptive to experiences, knowing that you have a strong backbone. And for us as therapists, that strong back are our boundaries, our support systems, both professionally and personally, and the ways that we're able to connect with our clients and show up as human beings. But when we can
Mm.
have that soft front and that strong back, we can experience the full range of experiences and emotions as therapists, which includes vicarious trauma and then vicarious resilience.
I love that. I've never heard of that before. All right. So give us a brief overview of the structure of the book.
So, like I was saying, it's set up as sort of like a workbook and journal combo. So it starts out by helping people understand, okay, what is vicarious resilience and what does it look like for me? Because my
Mm,
experiences of vicarious resilience are going to be different than other people's. So there are some checklists, some other kind of worksheets that people can go through to start to connect with that on their own. Then, periodically throughout the book is the soft transition work page because it's such an important exercise and can be done really quickly at the end of the day. There are also there's journal prompts in there. There's other worksheets that I use a lot inside of the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective. There's meditations. There's a page where you can draw and color what your vicarious resilience is like. So there's lots of different exercises, opportunities for reflection, and then just blank journal pages to be able to write whatever you're wanting or needing to.
Now, when you're saying that vicarious resilience might be different for one person than the next, say more about that.
Well, for me, my go-to kind of the way that I know that it's starting to happen is I feel like warm fuzzies in my chest, and often I'll tear up. Like I will feel my eyes well up, whether it's positive because I'm so grateful in the moment or because I'm connecting so deeply with my client's emotions. For other people, though, it might be maybe more cerebral, where maybe they feel like their mind clears, right? They're able to be more in the moment. Or maybe, they're able to like find their words better. But there's just
Mm,
lots of different cues that are going to happen internally and externally to let us know that vicarious resilience is happening. And when we start to learn those for ourselves, then we can start to connect them with the experiences and notice patterns in our work. So it becomes easier to then tell someone else, to then let someone else know about the powerful things that are happening every day in our clinical work so that those experiences can grow.
and the resilience is a what, positive or strength that's coming as a result from the trauma the client's
Well,
experience?
so vicarious resilience was coined by researchers, and they were doing qualitative research with therapists who were treating torture survivors. So really, really intense work. And they were not looking for vicarious resilience, but they found it because in these interviews, the therapists were not talking about how much they hated their jobs or how terrible their lives were because they were working with these kinds of clients. They were talking about how inspired they were by these clients,
Mm,
by how the work with these clients shifted their worldviews and allowed them to feel more grateful, to feel more open, to feel more connected. And so that's where this concept of vicarious resilience came from. So it's really soaking up the work and the resilience of the clients, and allowing it to seep into ourselves so that we can continue doing this work as well.
wow, really cool, really interesting, and I think vital for anyone who's
Yeah.
working with people who've been impacted by trauma. And again, I don't think I've really talked about this before.
Not a whole lot of people know about it, so that's why I'm getting
Jesus.
up on my soapbox and I'm telling everyone.
Damn. All right, Jenny. Do you have the book there?
I
Can
do.
you hold it up?
Yep.
Triggers to Glimmers. Okay,
Triggers to
we'll have this linked
Glimmers with
up.
a really long
Awesome.
subtitle.
A Vicarious Resilience Journal and Workbook for the Badass Trauma Therapist.
Yep.
Awesome. And also you have Brave Providers, and that's a what, community for?
Yeah, so it's the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective is an online membership community for trauma therapists. And I actually just lowered the price to only $9 a month because I want everyone to be able to access it. And it's a place where people can join live calls like consultation we had today. We have guest experts. I do a lot of teaching around things like vicarious trauma and vicarious resilience. We have a private online community. We have asynchronous consultation in a secure app, and just a bunch of badass trauma therapists that love to show up together and for each other. And so it is open to anyone who would like to join us who's a clinician.
Awesome. Look at you. All right. What's the best way for people to contact you?
So they can, well, one thing that could be helpful for folks is my vicarious trauma tracker to help to understand that side of things. And so the website for that is Brave Providers /VT Tracker. I'm also on Instagram at Brave Providers. And then on Facebook, I'm Jenny Hughes.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll have those linked up. Thanks so much, Jenny.
Thank
Really
you,
appreciate
Guy.
you coming on here. Looking forward to getting this book out there.
Thank you so much. This has been
All right.
awesome.
Take care.